Eminem has always been more than just a rapper. At the start of the millennium, he was a cultural earthquake, a voice that cut through the polished facade of pop music with raw, jagged honesty. His words weren't sanitized for mainstream approval, and that was exactly why millions connected with him. He made you laugh, cry, squirm. He was alive. But somewhere along the way, something changed. And according to a growing number of people, this wasn't just aging, stress, or recovery. It was replacement. The theory centers around 2006. That was the year whispers began about a fatal car crash involving Marshall Mathers. Rumors surfaced online claiming he had died and been replaced with a clone. That was the year his music, appearance, and even his eyes began to shift in ways fans have never stopped debating. Whether you believe it or not, the timeline is undeniable. Eminem before 2006 and Eminem after 2006 do not look, sound, or feel like the same person. The conspiracy begins with an alleged car crash. According to the theory, sometime in late 2005 or early 2006, Eminem was involved in a serious accident, fatal or close enough to end his career. Mainstream outlets reported nothing. Official records show no such event. But fans insist that strange silences in his schedule, long, unexplained disappearances, and sudden changes in his appearance align perfectly with this rumor. Eminem himself admitted he nearly overdosed during this time. He's spoken about prescription pill abuse, retreating from the spotlight, disappearing to recover. But conspiracy theorists argue this story is a cover. If the real Eminem died, the machine around him, the music industry, the labels, the corporations, would have needed a replacement. His brand was too valuable to lose. One of the most striking observations is about his eyes. In his prime, Eminem's piercing blue eyes were a signature feature. They burned with intensity in interviews and gave him the look of a man who was electric. Today, many insist those eyes are gone. His gaze appears darker, sometimes brown, sometimes black, sometimes hollow. Lighting, age, or genetics can't explain such a drastic shift, they argue. His eyes aren't just different in color, they're different in spirit. The old light is gone. Then there's the smile. Early Eminem smiled often, joked with reporters, laughed at his own punchlines. Even when battling critics, there was a spark of humor. Fans comb through old interviews and point out how charismatic and alive he was. Compare that to the Eminem of the past decade. He rarely smiles. His face appears frozen, expressionless. He looks uncomfortable in interviews, as if the life has been drained from him. To some, this is trauma. To others, it's cloning. A replica can copy the look, the voice, the style, but not the soul. Beyond the eyes and smile, fans point to drastic physical changes. His jawline appears sharper, his cheeks more hollow, his skin tighter. His entire bone structure seems slightly different. Photos from the early 2000s compared to recent years show what some insist is an entirely different man. Skeptics say it's weight loss, aging, or cosmetic surgery. Believers argue the differences go beyond what nature or procedure could produce. The biggest proof, some say, is in the music. Eminem before 2006 delivered chaos wrapped in genius. His albums were unpredictable, filled with satire, rage, comedy, and brutal honesty. Songs like Stan, The Real Slim Shady, and Lose Yourself carried an unmistakable voice. Raw, dangerous, alive. But after 2006, the tone shifted. His music became darker, colder, less playful. The wit was gone. The chaos was replaced by something mechanical. His delivery became more monotone, more rigid, almost programmed. The Slim Shady character faded, replaced by an Eminem who seemed drained of personality. The theory widens when MK enters the conversation. MK was a real CIA program in the 1950s and 60s, involving drugs, hypnosis, and trauma to control human behavior. Officially, it was shut down. Unofficially, many believe it never ended. According to the theory, Eminem's lifeless demeanor, robotic interviews, and blank stares are signs of trauma-based programming. Clips circulate online showing him freezing mid-sentence, staring blankly as if a switch flipped off. Others show him twitching, blinking rapidly or appearing to glitch. These are seen as signs of someone under deep psychological control, someone whose personality has been fractured and replaced. People also point to lyrics scattered across his later work, references to demons, voices in his head, loss of control, lines that sound less like fiction and more like confessions. Was Eminem signaling that he was trapped in something he couldn't escape? Or were these just metaphors stretched too far by suspicious fans? Even his public appearances fuel speculation. Compare his early interviews where he cracked jokes, roasted other rappers, and pushed boundaries to his later ones. He sits stiff, cautious, monotone. Some argue this is the result of fame, aging, and addiction. Others argue no recovery could explain such a dramatic shift. It's as if the old Marshall Mathers is gone and a shell remains. Nostalgia makes the theory sting even more. People remember the early 2000s when Eminem was raw and alive, when his music felt like it carried pieces of his soul. They remember the spark in his eyes, the energy on stage, the fearless way he challenged authority. And then they look at the figure standing before them today, pale, expressionless, joyless. The contrast is haunting. Some argue this is all a metaphor, that Eminem died symbolically in 2006, and what we see now is a survivor stripped of the fire that made him great. But conspiracy theorists argue the difference is too precise, too stark. To them, this isn't the result of age, drugs, or trauma. It's deliberate replacement. The idea of celebrity doubles isn't new. Paul McCartney was rumored to have died in 1966 and been replaced with a lookalike. Avril Lavigne was said to have been swapped with a double after her supposed suicide. The entertainment industry has a history of strange rumors like these, but none have clung so tightly for so long as the theory about Eminem. Because unlike the others, the changes in him are visible, audible, undeniable. If this theory is true, then the question becomes, why? One answer is money. Eminem was too valuable to lose. His albums sold millions. His name generated billions. Corporations don't let assets disappear, they replicate them. Another answer is control. Eminem was once rebellious, chaotic, unpredictable. The industry cannot tolerate true rebels for long. By replacing or reprogramming him, they turned a threat into a puppet. Fans debate endlessly. Some dismiss the theory as ridiculous. Others can't shake the evidence staring them in the face. Old photos compared to new ones. Old lyrics compared to new ones. Old interviews compared to new ones. The shift is real. Something happened to Eminem around 2006, and he has never been the same since. The man who once embodied chaos now embodies something else entirely. Emptiness. The voice that once felt alive now feels programmed. The eyes that once burned with mischief now look hollow. Whether he was replaced, controlled, or simply broken, one thing is clear. The Eminem people fell in love with is gone. You be the judge. If you're awake, don't forget to sign up to our free underground newsletter. Link in the description.